In the well-known city of Salas, there lived a beautiful young lady known as Amara. She was so beautiful and endowed that any man who saw her would want to have her. But Amara was scared of love. Her childhood experiences left a trauma within her that she struggled to overcome. Her father was a chronic womanizer and a serial cheat. Many times, she would see her mother crying because her father came home with another woman. Even though Amara was young, the scenes of her mother's pain remained in her thoughts as she grew up. Amara had been in various relationships, but she always made sure to quit the relationship as soon as she had any doubts or suspicions that the man was being unfaithful. She gave no room for infidelity because she didn't want to go through what her mother went through in the hands of her father. One day, Amara met a handsome young man called Ifani. He was very patient and kind towards her. He always checked up on her and made her feel very loved. It didn't take long before Amara fell deeply in love with Ifani. Despite the fact that she was scared of love, she believed that Ifani would be different from other men. However, she promised herself that she wouldn't let Ifani touch her. A friend told her that the best way to know a faithful man is by denying him access to your body. If he still remains faithful to you, then it means he genuinely loves you and not just your body. Amara's relationship with Ifani continued peacefully until one night when they both went out on a date and Amara had too much to drink. She got drunk and Ifani took her to his place. Without her permission, Ifani took advantage of her drunkenness and slept with her. When she woke up the next day, she realized what had happened the previous night and she deeply hated herself. She felt deeply ashamed of herself. The following day, Ifani came to her house and tried to sleep with her again, but she refused.
I told you I want the both of us to abstain until our wedding night.
What's the difference? We've already done it once. Why don't we continue that way? I love you, and I know you love me too.
But Amara insisted and stood her ground. Ifani got very angry and left her house. He stopped calling her or picking her calls. Amara became very heartbroken because she had deeply loved Ifani. One day, she went to Ifani's house without telling him. She wanted to apologize to him if her decision was the cause of his withdrawal. But when she got to his house, she found another woman in his house. The woman introduced herself as Ifani's fiancée. Amara felt a sharp pain building up in her heart. She went back home and she cried her eyes out. With each tear that dropped from her eyes, her heart became hardened. Amara became very upset and a deep hatred built up within her towards men. She concluded that love didn't exist and believed that all every man wanted from a woman was sex. So she decided to start sleeping with men for money. It's better to do it and earn money rather than be used and dumped in the end, Amara told herself. After that day, Amara accepted any man that approached her for a relationship or friendship. But like she always predicted, at some point, the men would try to sleep with her. Amara would give them a huge price to pay. And in their desperation to have her, because she was very beautiful and endowed, they would accept to pay her. Amara continued in this fashion for a while, and in a matter of months, everyone knew her as the hookup girl, an expensive prostitute. She became very popular among many bachelors and married men. Amara didn't care about the kind of men she slept with, as long as the price was right. Many women despised her for selling her body to men who could afford her, while some men saw her as a cheap lady who had no moral values. But Amara had already concluded in her heart that she didn't need a man in her life, that she wouldn't ever get married or find love. Her life's plan was to save and invest as much money as she could, and let her adopt children when she became 30. One night, Amara was on her way home when she had a flat tire. She checked her boots and realized that she didn't have a spare tire. As she stood helpless on the road, a very luxurious car parked a few meters from where she stood. A dashing young man came down from the car and met her. "Hi, my name is Tony. What is a beautiful angel like you doing on the road all by herself by this time of the night? I had a flat tire. Perhaps you could be so nice as to drop me home. I have already called a towing truck." Tony took Amara in his car to her house. He took her number and wished her a good night. Amara went inside her house and peeped through the window to be sure that Tony had truly left. She found it very strange that Tony didn't try to enter her house or try to sleep with her, unlike other men that wouldn't hesitate to have their way with her. The next day, Tony called Amara and showed genuine concern about her welfare and her car. But he didn't ask to see her or sleep with her. This continued for many weeks. Every morning, Amara would wake up to romantic texts from Tony, and each night before she slept, Tony would send her a good night text. Amara started getting used to Tony's romantic gestures, but her heart wasn't moved. She strongly believed that Tony would eventually try to sleep with her one day. After a few months, Amara was impressed by Tony's consistency to show her that he truly cared about her, but she still doubted his intentions. They have been out on some dates and they've both visited each other at home and equally slept over. But Tony always avoided sleeping with her on the same bed. So Amara decided to push Tony to the edge by seducing him. She visited him unexpectedly one night, wearing a skimpy dress that exposed all the features of her body. Then she started making advances at Tony. But to her greatest surprise, Tony refused her. He simply held her close to himself and whispered something into her ears. Tony said,
"I don't want your body, Amara. What I want is your heart. I am aware that anyone can buy your body, but what will it cost to win your heart?"
Amara quickly freed herself from Tony's grip. She stared at him strangely, trying to figure out how Tony managed to remain in control when other men would have ignored their moral values and slept with her as soon as they got the chance. Amara went back home, but she couldn't sleep. Tony would be the first man that wouldn't ask to sleep with her, talk more of rejecting her seductive charms. While she sat on her bed and thought about Tony, she got a text message from him, and it said, "What would it cost to win your heart? I know that beneath that woman who has a fixed price on her body, there's an angel. I want that angel. I don't care about your past. All I care about is our future. Amara could feel her heart gradually melting and tears started to flow freely from her eyes. She remembered the woman that she was before and how the frequent heartbreaks pushed her into what she was now. She wept bitterly until she eventually fell asleep. The next day, Amara went to visit Tony at his office. He was so happy to see her. He offered her a seat and told his secretary to cancel all his appointments for the day. Then he sat beside Amara.
So tell me, have you fixed the price on your heart yet?
Tony joked, but Amara appeared to be very serious. She looked deeply into Tony's eyes and asked him,
"Why me? Your secretary is very beautiful, and there are many other beautiful and virtuous women out there you could buy with your money. Why me?"
Tony took a deep breath and held Amara's hands.
My heart chose you. I believe that there is a reason for every action we take in life, and there must be a reason why you sell your body to the highest bidder. But I don't care about your past, Amara. I want your heart. Just say yes, and I promise I'll take good care of you.
Amara thought for a while, and then she accepted to be Tony's girlfriend. Tony took her out that day and spent a lot to celebrate their new relationship. Amara also stopped sleeping around with men for money and remained faithful to only Tony. In a few months, Amara fell deeply in love with Tony, and he never gave her a reason to doubt his love for her. They got married afterwards and relocated to another city where no one knew Amara's past, and they lived happily ever after. We must remember not to give up too easily in life. Meeting the right person might be difficult, but one day you would find someone who would accommodate your flaws and insecurities.